Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to speak to the bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I hope you will support this bill as being a good example of bipartisan cooperation, get something done here. But I do want to point out one issue that continues to be a concern to at least some of us in this chamber, and I think Republicans and Democrats alike, and that's this whole issue of tax preferences. Since we began discussing this issue several years ago, and a commission was formed, Delegate Landis had the bill that got passed that formed a commission on tax preferences. There are a lot of new people who've come to this chamber, and they may or may not know very much about tax preferences. But for those of you who don't know, a tax preference is something we put in the code that benefits some industry or some group of people. And once it gets passed, unless we remove it from the code, it remains in the code. And the reason why this is important is because when we take that decision, we are essentially binding future appropriations committees, future General Assemblies to expending the money that is necessary to implement the provisions of the preference. There are millions of dollars involved in these tax preferences, some of which I like, some of which I don't like. I don't like government programs that don't work. I like government programs that do work, and there are some things that work. But the point is, in all the time I've been here, I don't believe we've ever taken a tax preference out of the code. And I know even despite the best efforts of Delegate Landis and the commission, I don't think they've recommended that we do anything since they started. Now, there are some pretty hefty tax preferences. The Land Preservation Tax Credit, it's a program that I like. Do you hear that, Mr. Speaker? But it is $100 million plus a year. The coal tax credit, which I don't like because Jay Lark said several years ago that it's outused its intended purpose, which was create jobs, costs us somewhere between $75 and $80 million a year. That's a lot of money for a government program that has outlived its original useful purpose, which was to create jobs. We have a number of sales tax holidays. We're not even sure how much that costs us. As we look at budgets and we consider the long-term implications of sequestration, and we try to diversify our economy, we're not going to do that overnight. So we have to develop some strategies to make sure we're funding the things that people consider important. And every time we keep these preferences on in the code, we are taking money away from those other programs. So I hope that the governor and I hope that a number of us in this chamber take a look and evaluate the extent to which these things are really working, the extent to which we are spending too much on them. So when we come forward in next session, we'll have another way besides just cutting things to make up the difference between revenues and expenditures. Thank you.